Sanford and Son told the story of junkyard owner Fred G. Sanford, and the G always stood for something else, and his son Lamont as they tried to navigate through life in Watts, Los Angeles. The show's success came from the excellent writers and was one of the many masterpieces created by Norman Lear. But the real magic of the show came from the excellent cast members, of whom many have sadly left us. Join Facts First to learn how each Sanford and Son cast member died and their incredible legacies. Redd Foxx. John Elroy Sanford was born December 9, 1922, in St. Louis. His early life and personal experiences later inspired his character Fred G. Sanford on Sanford and Son. The surname, of course, came from John's own surname. Fred was the name of his brother, and the character, Fred G. Sanford, also grew up in St. Louis. John later moved to Chicago, where he spent his formative years. So how did he get the nickname Redd Foxx? He was part Native American and part African American, and this gave him a reddish complexion, including red hair. As a young man, when he was pursuing stand-up comedy, he worked as a dishwasher in a restaurant. He was given the name Chicago Red from his hometown and his hair. He even had a colleague nicknamed Detroit Red. His colleague, by the way, was later known as Malcolm X. Chicago Red began performing stand-up comedy at local clubs. At his job as a dishwasher, he had gained a reputation for being able to crack jokes and make others laugh. He performed raunchy blue humor, which was a huge hit. He later chose the moniker Redd Foxx. Redd came from his complexion and hair, and Fox was because he wanted to present himself as being sly as a fox. He added an extra D and X to the name for stylistic reasons. Sanford and Son was Redd Foxx's launch to stardom and made him more mainstream. His performance as Fred G. Sanford remains one of the greatest sitcom characters of all time. Redd Foxx's death was an ironic tragedy. In Sanford and Son, there were many scenes where he would pretend to have a heart attack. Years later, while working on an episode of the show The Royal Family, Redd was having a heart attack in front of his fellow cast members. Sadly, they thought it was him doing an impression, and it was too late before they realized he was actually suffering. He passed away on the 11th of October, 1991, at age 69. His legacy lives on, and he remains an inspiration for many great comedians who came after him. Before we tell you more, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. LaWanda Page. Alberta Peel, later known as LaWanda Page, was born October 19, 1920, in Cleveland. She and her family eventually moved to St. Louis, where she went to school with Redd Foxx, and the two remained friends until his death in 1991. At age 15, she began her showbiz career, working as a fire dancer. She later began performing stand-up comedy and became a star on the Chitlin Circuit, a comedy circuit for African-American comedians who performed outside the mainstream. She became rather well known in the stand-up scene and sold a few comedy albums through Laugh Records. She reached the mainstream when she was cast as Aunt Esther in Sanford and Son. Her most popular scenes involved her getting into tiffs with Fred and her popular catchphrase, "Watch it, sucka." She continued to make television appearances after the show ended in shows like Sanford, Sanford Arms, and The Love Boat. She also had a few movie appearances in films such as Zapped, My Blue Heaven, CB4, and Friday. She died of a heart attack in September of 2002 at age 81 in Hollywood, California. Whitman Mayo. Whitman Mayo was born in 1930 in New York City. He grew up in Harlem and Queens. Throughout much of his adult life, he worked a variety of odd jobs, including being a waiter, probation officer, vineyard worker, and even a counselor to troubled children. In the 70s, he found a job working at the New Lafayette Theater in Harlem. One night, Whitman came across Norman Lear, who was the creator of Sanford and Son. Lear offered him a role as Grady Wilson. Before this, Whitman only had one supporting role in a 1966 film called The Black Klansman. Yet, even with his limited acting experience, Whitman was able to excel in the role of Grady. There was a brief period where Redd Foxx didn't appear on the show, and several episodes focused on Grady and Lamont, played by Damon Wilson. Grady was such a loved character, he managed to continue the show even during Fox's absence. Whitman Mayo reprised his role in a short-lived sitcom called Grady. He continued to work regularly in television and film for the rest of his life, and became one of the most recognized actors in African-American cinema and television. He died of a heart attack May 22, 2001, at age 70 in Atlanta. Don Bexley. Don Bexley was born March 10, 1910. Some sources say he was born in Detroit, while others say he was born in Jamestown, Virginia. His mother was a classical vocalist, and his father was a teacher as well as an expert on the Holy Bible. This background is what led Don to take an interest in entertainment. He had a varied career as an orchestra master, singer, dancer, and even a stand-up comedian. He began his stand-up career in the 1940s, working in New York. He eventually began collaborating with many famous comedians, including Redd Foxx, with whom he became close friends. The two later worked together in the 1970 film Cotton Comes to Harlem. When Sanford and Son began, Redd Foxx convinced the show's producers to hire Don Bexley to play Fred's friend, Bubba. Despite having minimal acting experience and never appearing on TV before, Don Bexley became a hit on the show, playing Bubba Bexley. He reprised this role on Sanford Arms and made many appearances on other TV shows like Laverne and Shirley, Hunter, and The Royal Family. His film appearances included Uptown Saturday Night, What's Up Doc, and Vibes. He died from heart and kidney failure at age 87 in 1997 in Hampton, Virginia. Nathaniel Taylor. Nathaniel Taylor was born in March of 1938 in St. Louis. As a young man, he worked as an electrician at the Performing Arts Society of LA. It was during this time that his mentor, filmmaker Larry Clark, suggested he try his hand at acting. Nathaniel read out a few lines for a new character in Sanford and Son. He was soon cast as Rollo Lawson, Lamont's friend who was always getting him into trouble. This became the role Nathaniel Taylor became best known for. He later played Rollo again on the short-lived sitcom Sanford. He also played Rollo in one episode of Grady. He was known for his role as Jim Jam on The Redd Foxx Show and Ike on What's Happening'. He also appeared in a few films including Trouble Man, Black Girl, Willie Dynamite, The Hunter, and appeared as himself in a short film called Auditioning for Nathaniel. He died of a heart attack February 27, 2019 at age 80. Pat Morita. Pat Morita was born June 28, 1932 in Iselton, California. He was a first-generation American whose parents immigrated from Japan. He worked a series of odd jobs during his adult years, including working at a DMV, working in his family's restaurant, working at Aerojet General and Lockheed. He also gained a reputation for entertaining others and making them laugh. He eventually quit his day job and pursued a career as a stand-up. It took him several years, but eventually he became well known on the nightclub circuit. His mentor was none other than Redd Foxx. He was later cast as Ah Chu, who was one of Lamont's friends and who often had tiffs with Fred. Pat was one of the first Asian American actors to make an impact and have a popular role on a sitcom. He had a varied career in film and TV, and in later years became best known for his role as Mr. Miyagi in the Karate Kid films. He died of kidney failure November 24, 2005, at his home in Las Vegas. He was 73. Now it's time to hear from you. Who was your favorite character from Sanford and Son? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.